Okay, good afternoon. We're going to get going with everything. A couple of housekeeping notes just for everybody's information. We have loaded a spreadsheet onto the employee access area of the website. You can go to that area and look at what classes that you have attended this year. That was up through the date we loaded that, which was April the 8th. So if you need help with that, we are also encouraging people to go online and review the program specifics. There are certain things you have to have minimum requirements on. Prior to submitting your tally sheet, if you spend a little time looking that over, being sure that you meet the minimum requirements, then it'll make things go much faster on our end, not having to track you down and get things corrected. The deadline for submission of your tally sheets is Friday, May the 3rd at 4:30 p.m. Write that down. Don't even count on the 3rd. Get it in the 2nd. There will not be any late tally sheets accepted. You don't want to let that date come and pass, because in order for you to obtain your rewards, it has to be to us by May 3rd at 4:30 p.m. Also, on the employee access area of the website, in addition to the class information, we have a blank tally sheet. I have printed some blank ones. They're available in HR if you need one of those. The rewards program booklet, which you can use to review over, is also there for you to just get an idea about your points distributions. Today we have Elizabeth Price. Elizabeth is with Clarksville Behavioral Health. She also does work with the Army, and she's going to be conducting classes for us on the difference in sadness and depression, recognizing the warning signs and things you can do whenever you see those. Join me in welcoming Elizabeth today, please.
Okay, they are wanting me to talk to you guys about sadness and depression. Sadness is a normal part of our life. We have it every day. I mean, you can start out as being very happy, and then all of a sudden your day could go bad and you're back to being sad. It's a normal part of life. Everybody has it. Like I was telling Miss Gleek, is that Monday morning when I get up, I'm sad because 5 o'clock, the clock is going off, and I'm going, wait a minute, I got one more day. Surely it's not work day. Am I sad? Yeah, I crawl out of bed and say, oh Lord, what am I going to put on today? And you know, I work a lot, as all of you do, and especially the firemen here. You guys are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, it can be saddening as well, because you don't get a day off to spend with your kids, your wife. Everybody has jobs that make us sad at times. So what we do is we look at sadness as being just a normal part of life. Our events trigger it all the time. And then we look at the fact is, how many of our coworkers are sad? How many of you can read each other? Don't tell me you can't read each other, because you do. Because you're with each other so many hours a day. You're with each other more than you are your spouses or kids at home. You're 8 hours a day at work. So you're here more than you are at home with your significant others, spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. So sadness is a normal part of our lives. What they asked me to do was talk to you about depression. Depression can occur in men and women of all ages, socioeconomic group. I mean, teenagers, our children can be depressed. I mean, it just depends. Depression is a part of life. We have a lot of our people out here that we look at, you know, the socioeconomic groups as to where they live at, how bad is the economic in their area. Depression can come from that. So what we do is we look at depression as being an abnormal condition or state of mental illness. How many of you can tell if someone is depressed? How can you tell if it's just sadness? Yeah. Somebody who comes into work, prior to when you're all working together, they were dressed nice, their pants had creases in it, and then all of a sudden, they went a total opposite direction. Do you think they could be sad or depressed? Could be depressed. A lot of times we don't recognize that, but as a psychologist here, I do recognize those things. I recognize when people, I guess I read them a little better than you guys do, and I can tell when they've changed, things have gone wrong, things are different from them. So, because I work a lot of times with people, I can tell when something's going on, and I can immediately direct them to some other area that can help them. A lot of times, my schedule's tight, and I don't get to do that often. Some of the signs that you're going to see with people who are depressed a lot of times is they sleep a lot. Some people who are depressed spend 20 hours a day in bed, or they spend 8 hours when they come home from work and they'll lay down and they won't get up for the rest of the day. We find a lot of that going on. They don't care about life anymore. They could care less. How they look, how they dress, how they talk, walk, act, they don't care. They've become that depressed. Significant changes in their weight or appetite. We have a lot of folks out here that if you look at them one day and 6 weeks later or a month later or 2 months later, they've gained over 100 pounds and you're looking at them like, uh-oh, what's going on in their life? We also have to look at they fall asleep or they sleep too much, feeling slowed down in movement or restlessness most days, feeling tired and sluggish and having low energy, having feelings of worthlessness. Because, when we work with a lot of our veterans out on post, we recognize some of these symptoms and signs is that they just give up on life altogether. If you look at your homeless veterans that are out here on the streets, they have pretty much done what? They've given up. They don't care anymore. They think that life is not worth living for, so they become disheveled, they're uncooperative, they could care less. And so depression sets in really bad with them, and we end up having to look at them in a special way because of the fact is that they've been in the military, they've gone through a lot of things. So you don't recognize, you think it's sadness, but in actuality they're going through depressed states as well. So what we do is we look at them. A lot of them have thoughts of suicide or dying. A lot of people, if you recognize some of your coworkers, they may not always tell you that they're depressed. How can you tell? How can you tell, guys? Yeah, a lot of them will withdraw, won't talk to you, sit over in the corner, be by themselves. When they leave their job, they go home, shut the door. They don't come out, they don't go to activities, they don't do anything. Should you talk to them? Should you take them off to the side and say, hey, do you need somebody to talk to? Do you need somebody to, kind of hold your hand or something? Yeah. A lot of times people don't recognize depression. It gets really bad. And they do end up committing suicide. And a lot of times people that are depressed, if you don't watch them real careful, they come in and they'll be all happy and everything else, and they say, oh, life's grand, life's great, cool. Then what happens? A few days later, you'll get a phone call that they've committed suicide. Can you recognize in your coworkers, family members? Not all the time. Because you see them 24 hours a day. How do you recognize those things? I know that in myself, I've had depression and I've also had sadness. I've had both. I had 2 brothers that passed away within 5 days of each other. So sadness set in because the first one had passed away. And then when the second one passed away, it set in with depression. And our family went through 6 or 8 months of depression. Because, we had lost 2 family members within 5 days of each other, and you're out here burying them, and it's like, holy Jesus, what do I do, And you're standing there thinking, wow, how can this happen all at one time? And it does. So can sadness lead into depression? Yes. A lot of times it can. So what we do is we like to think of ourselves as, hey, if you see somebody that's depressed or you think they may be, sit down and hold their hand. Talk to them. Say, hey, I'm here. If you want to talk to me, I'm here. Bye, fellas. Oh, not you. Okay. Okay. No? They're good. It's them. Oh. Listen, we get that at work too. They'll put a blast over our screens, and all of a sudden our screen's got this horn looking at us in the face going, "Ah," and we're going, okay, what's next? Yeah, we go through it all the time. But yeah, when you look at depression, guys, think of the fact is that if you've got somebody in your group that becomes very distant, and I see, when I look here at this group, how many of you know the girl over there? How many of you know your employees inside your units? Well, you probably all work together a very long time. No? That's unusual. Do you know what everybody thinks ahead of time?
Nobody ever knows what
Oh, you don't. You do?
I know what they might be thinking.
Thank goodness.
I know what they might be thinking.
Hey, listen, I thought about that a few times about my boss, so don't worry. Yeah. Yeah, don't read my brains, because it might get you in trouble. The other thing with depression too is you have to look at a lot of people that are diabetics, have heart disease, have any type of injuries or anything like that. Medications can also cause depression as well. If you've got people who take beta blockers, metformin, insulins, hormonal medication, this does not, don't start saying every woman, because they're hormonal, that they're depressed, because that's not true all the time. Well, a lot of men, they think that when a woman is ranting and raving, oh my God, she's hormonal today. Oh my God, what am I going to do with her?
I shouldn't have done what my calls were rant right to begin with.
Yeah, but however, that's not always true, because women can have hormonal imbalances as well as men. You men can have hormonal imbalances as well that can cause depression in you. Yes. When you reach a certain... No. That's not true either, because when you get a certain age, and stuff doesn't work, y'all look and say, oh, it's got to be a woman that's giving me this.
It's all the woman's fault.
Can't always be that. So you kind of have to look at some of those things too. Statins, a lot of your heart medications can cause depression as well, because it can affect your body. So we have to look at, when we have patients that come in, they say, I'm depressed, I'm this, I'm that. The first thing I start doing is I do a medical examination. First off, I ask what medications you're on. How often do you take those medications? And usually I will send you back to your doctors, because a lot of times what's happening is that medication is too strong, or it's not strong enough. So what I end up having to do is I send a lot of patients back to their doctors to re-examine the medications they're on, because a lot of times they can cause great amount of depression. And so a lot of times it's not every day that it could be something that's transpiring in their lives that cause them to be depressed. I mean, life is tough. I can tell you, life is extremely tough. And so what do you do with it? Social media, our biggest backfall. Huh? How many of you are on Facebook? Chat lines? Google Hangout? These all take up a lot of time, and you get on there and a lot of people get wrapped up in that, and they see things on there about themselves from somebody else who's told them that they're trash and all this stuff, and then depression starts setting in because, they get wrapped up in that stuff.
Sorry about
Is it important?
I'll just tell my cat.
Okay.
I was supposed to shoot grade over here, but it's okay. You can do it. Thanks. You can tell me chat line one.
Tell them to chat.
No, actually, it's my book, but anyway, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Are you going to NFL draft? No? But yeah, let me tell you, it's just that a lot of times people that are depressed, a lot of us don't recognize it, and so we end up with patients who come in and tell us how everything is great for the day, nothing's wrong anymore, and guess what? A couple days later, you'll find, or you'll get a notice from somebody that they've committed suicide. So be kind of cautious and mindful. If you see somebody who's sad, talk to them. Hold their hand. Be nice. Hug them. Oh, not you guys. Don't hug each other. Somebody will think. Oh, yeah, but somebody will think they're kind of funny, you know. Oh. I forget firemen do things to each other that. Huh? You don't go to each other's houses when you're off and that kind of
They
stuff?
said they're not
and
afraid to
talk?
hug.
Oh, they're not?
That's good.
I'm glad.
We're in a safe zone.
What's an unsafe zone?
You don't want to be there.
Is that for firemen only? Okay.
How long do you got?
But yeah, we like to distinguish the two differences. When you see people in your units that all of a sudden separate from you, I would be very concerned. When they start not wanting to talk to you, they don't want to be with you, they don't want to be around you, they don't want to talk to you, be mindful that something could be going on and they're just afraid to tell anybody, because we all have a tendency of doing what? Clamming up, but we also have a tendency.
Judge.
Yeah, we judge them because, what do you mean you're going to commit suicide? You got a wife, you got kids, you got a house, you got this, you got that. But it may not have anything to do with that. We've tried that several times with some of our patients, and guess what? Doesn't shake. Doesn't shake off. Especially because I work with veterans. We've had several that have been told to shake it off. Shouldn't have said that to them.
That's going to be our next year's class.
I didn't think of it.
Social etiquette. This is
Whoa.
the unsafe zone.
You're going to hurt my last feeling.
This last one.
Safe zone's on that side.
But yeah, because I know a lot of you work with veterans as well. There's veterans in your groups. You know, be mindful that if they go into that state, you need to help them because it's very imperative. Because we see a lot of them that do. Right now, our base out here is really at a high rate of suicide right now. Most of them are youngsters that come back, so we're having to be really mindful of them and hold their hand and, you know, tell them it's going to be okay, even though they think it's not. But yeah, be mindful of the people you work with. Hold their hand if necessary. Talk to them. If you don't want to talk to your coworkers, go see your priest, your pastor, anybody that's not going to blab your business to everybody else. Because that's part of our problem is we forget to be human beings. And we really do. Because, I mean, I try to be a human being all the time. And it's like I told the last group, if my patients don't come and see me and they miss an appointment, I'm at their house probably a day or two later, knocking on their door asking, you know, why didn't you come see me? We're still not done. You may be done, but I'm not. I don't feel safe leaving you by yourself until I feel that you're safe enough to leave. But yeah, I mean, so I'll tell you a little bit about me. I work for Clarksville Behavioral Health. I know what it's like to work 40 hours a week, sometimes 36 hours in a 24-hour day. I go to school full-time. 7 weeks, I graduate with a PhD in clinical and forensic psychology. It's taken me 10 years to complete the goals and dreams I had. So I know what sadness is, and I know what depression is. Because when you try to fit 36 hours in a 24-hour day, it can be overwhelming. And so I recommend to everybody, if you feel like you're overwhelmed, go fishing. Go swing the golf club. Or take the golf balls and throw them at the ducks or something, you know. Or throw them at the fish or whatever. But get out where you don't have the stress. And just relax. And how many relax? How often do you relax?
A lot more now than I did.
Retired?
Semi-retired. I was a police officer for 32 and a half years.
Hey.
So
Oh, hey.
I'm very relaxed now.
I see some police officers that, wow, their hair's falling out. They're like, Lord have mercy.
He now works in our planning department.
But I mean, I've seen the police department too, and firemen, same thing. You guys are stressed out. You have a great responsibility put upon you. Can depression hit you? Sure. Can it hit you?
So my guys are on the road all day, every day.
Yeah.
They're in trouble all the time.
That's normal.
8 hours a day.
That's normal. But yeah, think about the people you work with. If you see them in trouble, ask. Hold their hands. There's no harm in it. I mean, some of you may smell pretty bad because you've been outside all day, but that doesn't matter. If they need somebody to talk to, take them for coffee. Sit down, talk to them. Say, hey, this is going on, and I need to talk to somebody. A lot of times you can't talk to your wives or your husbands or boyfriends or significant others because it may be about them. They may be driving you crazy. They may be doing things that drives you nuts, but you can't talk to them about it. So find somebody to talk to. Don't wait until something happens that you cannot step back from. Does anybody have any questions? No? Yes? Somewhat? Want to get back out on the road? Hate these programs?
No, this program is very,
They're here because they want to be.
Okay. I can handle that.
like till next Monday. So that's work.
Did you ask your question that I missed?
Hmm?
Did you ask your Sunday night question that I missed?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Usually people, when it comes Monday morning, they're sad.
Did you ask this for it?
They get in their cars and they go down the road, they park in the parking space and they go, "Phew, it's Monday. It's Monday. It's, yes, ma'am.
If you know someone that is depressed, how can you help them without feeling like you're nagging or putting more upon them?
Nagging them won't do any good at all. You can nag them 24 hours a day. It's just going to make them more resentful. What we usually do is we get them in to help with a psychiatrist or psychologist and find out where the situation started, because it had to start somewhere. And you talking to them and nagging them 24 hours a day, that's not going to help. That's just going to push them to the edge. And a lot of times what we do is we tell them, take them into a pastor, counselor, priest, anybody that they trust. A lot of times what you can do is go to your doctor and tell them that they absolutely refuse to get any help. And the doctors most of the time can sign an order to have them hospitalized for 30 days. I mean, I've done it a couple times myself, is that I've done the 704 form, which I've had them taken in for 72 hours stay. And then at that 72-hour level, then the other hospital directors and psychiatrists and psychologists take over, and they look at them and keep them in there for like 30 days or longer.
How did the patients normally react to that? After somebody came in last and said, yeah, I was not thinking. So
They're angry, they're upset, they're mad at you, but once we get them into the hospital and we can get them stabilized, a lot of times we can talk about that situation is that why the family did this was for your protection. A lot of times they will be mad as hornets, and they won't forgive the family for it. But however, once we get them stabilized and we find out why the depression is there and what's causing it, what medications we can put them on to stabilize them, then we can talk about the situation and talk about why the family put you in. And sometimes we have to do that. We don't like to, but for their own safety and for their own well-being, yes, we will do that.
How did it work out in the instances that you had to do? Everything work out?
We found out that a lot of it was due to family issues when they were a kid. Once you get those out of the way and then you start moving forward with their lives as to where they are now, they understand, but a lot of them can go back to depression again. And we just keep being diligent about taking care of their health. Because your mental health is what you have in life. If you don't have your mental health under control, what's going to happen to you? I mean, sometimes my mental health is, if I get to the point where I'm stressed out, what I usually do is I have a girlfriend that has a cabin. There's no television in there. The only thing she's got is a stereo. It's by the lake. And there's people with 5 or 10 miles on either side of the cabin. I go up there and throw my cell phone in the trunk and just vegetate. Does that help? Yeah. Some people it does, some people it doesn't. You just have to be careful with them. Family members, same way. If you recognize changes in them that they've never done before, be mindful. Ask, what's going on? Why? Your elderly patients, same thing. They go through bouts of depression. When you start taking away their driver's license, you start taking away their, we call it independence. They become volatile, they become angry, they become depressed, they're sad, they hate you, but you're doing it for their own safety. So yeah, a lot of times I would take them to see somebody. If they don't want to, then I would ask the doctor to intervene. Sometimes somebody that's not a family member can do better with that patient than you can. Because you're too close to the situation. You want him back to normal. They think they are normal. They think you're abnormal. So what happens is you get into this contest, and then it's better to have somebody from the outside step in. Anything else? Is that it? Go ahead.
I work in a big hospital in Nashville, and I see that we have a lot of people that we have to hire for sitters.
Mm-hmm.
Because when someone walks in the hospital and maybe says something that's threatening to
Mhm.
themselves, and they're very angry that legally we have to have a sitter for those
We do.
patients. But I find that coping skills are very lacking for some of our younger people in society. I work in a large department where I see a lot of millennial women that
Think about it.
coping skill issues.
How many of us teach our kids coping skills and problem-solving skills? In college, they gave me a class to teach on coping and problem-solving skills. Oh my. After 2 years of teaching it, I gave up. I just couldn't do it, because no matter what I did, was I divided my classroom up into the students that were in their 30s, my military students over here, and then the kids from fresh out of high school. I took their cell phones, laptops, anything that was electronic they couldn't use, and I would give them scenarios. Well, what happened was the youngsters they had 2 hours to do the project. My military guys had it done in an hour or less, and they were off doing their thing. And the older generation, they could solve the problem, cope with it, and go on. My youngsters, oh, please, Miss Price, can I Google it? Let me Google. Please, I can't do this. Let me get my laptop and Google it. No, I want you to be able to solve that problem. I want you to have the skills to solve it. I want you to be able to cope with that. Many of them failed the class, so some of them took it 2 and 3 times before they passed it. Is it the fault of us? Or is it the fault of this? Because it automatically gives them the answer. So how do you expect them to cope with life and cope with problems, and they don't even know how to solve them or even cope with them? If you look at a lot of the kids out here today, they can't solve a problem without Google. And I keep telling them, if Google goes away, what are you going to do? No, and they can't solve it either. So we have come to the point where we're having to make a lot of changes. We're going to have to. How many parents in here, kids have cell phones? What's the first thing they do when they get on that cell phone? They start hitting Google. You give them a problem, tell them, okay, tell me how to solve that problem right now. No telephone, no Google, no laptop. Tell me how to solve it. Tell me what to do. What's the first thing you would do? I don't know. Let me Google. No, I want you to tell me from here to here, what would you do? Yeah, it gets bad. Especially when you get them into the military side as well as the civilian side, it's worse than ever. Is it our fault? Is it our fault? Because we give them a lot of this? Is it our fault? I don't know. I raised my kids different, so.
I think a lot of parents don't want to be parents.
Are they too young to be parents right now?
They want to be the friend rather than the parent.
I know that my kids' friends thought I was odd
That'd be hard.
because I didn't have a television in my house. We had no computers, cell phones, none of that. They learned to use board games, play cards, be outside with their friends. They didn't have cell phones until they turned 18, and they bought them on their own. Was I bad? I don't know. But they played outside more than they were inside, so I don't know. Kids today, they get depressed over the fact is you won't let them use their cell phone. They get sad. They think you're being mean. They think you're just taking advantage of them, and you're just being mean. You won't let me use my cell phone. How am I going to solve anything? How many children know how to read a map? How many of you in here know how to read a map? Think about it. How many children out here know how to read a map? If GPS tracking device went away, there's cell phones, you couldn't use them, could they find their way home? What do you mean you hope not?
That's the game plan.
No, it's just when you get our age, you sell the house and buy a smaller so that they can't move in.
You move it, don't tell them.
Yeah, oh no, I tried that once. My kids tracked me with a bloodhound. They stood out on the front porch and go, she's right over there. Yeah. But yeah, if you think about it, kids today, they're more depressed because I think we don't give them enough responsibility maybe.
They have a lot more pressure on them too than we did growing up. With social media and.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more.
She can tell you, right? Being young, there's a lot of pressure on them. Parents put a lot of pressure on them to be what they weren't. So you've got this child sitting in class going, if I don't get an A on this, my parents won't be proud of me. They'll think I'm stupid. They'll think I'm dumb. Yeah.
What about the participation trophies, though? Kids get those too.
I got upset with my son's baseball coach because he was one of these type that gave every kid, I said, no, do not do that to my son because you're setting my son up for failure. You're setting my son up so that if he does fail, that he's not going to know how to handle it. And I would prefer that he does not get a participation trophy just like everybody else. He said, well, you're an odd mother. I said, I may be an odd mother, but however, I want my child to not come home and be depressed every time he doesn't win a game or every time he doesn't get his own way at the game. I want him to be able to work as a team, not as a separate entity, but as a team. Don't give me the participation trophies because they're not working as a team. And that's what you have to do in life. You have to work as a team. If you don't teach your children how to work as a team, what success are they going to have? So we have a lot of kids that they're depressed because, yeah, they don't get the participation trophy and they don't get this trophy and they don't get that, and I'm going, wow. How are you
We've
going?
driven them to resume build at such an earlier time in life. I mean, in junior high, they're building for a high school resume. High school, they're building college resumes. College, they're building for grad schools. And
Okay.
it's just like, you didn't used to do that.
What are we doing to our kids doing that?
Society's just put such demands on them, but they
Yeah,
have to
but-
realistically do it.
But how many of them are going to stay kids? How do they learn to be a kid?
We've robbed them of it.
I've watched the people in Japan. Their constant goal is education, education, education. And more than 65% of their kids in class are committing suicide and depressed because the parents have put so much demands on them to be perfect that they can't be perfect. Are we doing that to our kids? Are we?
Yes. In areas I see, way too often. I'm fighting my wife right now.
I didn't coddle my kids. They
You
had,
want them to have better, but not to the point of where they expect everything done for them. You can't do that.
I guess I must have been different with my kids because I had a board that they had chores to do, and they had to earn the money to go out with their buddies and their girlfriends to the movies. So every day I would come home and check the board if they did their chores. Well, my son decided he was going to prove the point. Well, Mom was the boss, and he didn't do any of his chores that week. So Friday came, and my daughter got her money to go with her girlfriends to the movies in an envelope, and I gave them a timesheet and listed their chores they did and everything. Handed that to my daughter, and she said, okay. She was going out with her girlfriends to the movies. Well, my son didn't do anything. So I handed him an envelope. There was nothing in it. He goes, where's my allowance? I said, well, you didn't work for it. You didn't do your chores. Well, what am I going to do? I got to go skating with my buddies. I said, well, this weekend, you're going to watch girly movies with me and eat popcorn. And he did, too.
See, I'm a little different on that. I shouldn't have to pay you money to pick up your work. I want you to pick it up
Mm-hmm.
and know how to do that instead of me giving you money for it. I guess I'm just gonna worry about that.
Well, see, mine was because I didn't want to hand them an allowance. I wanted them to work for it. And so for them to go out with their friends, they had to earn the money, and whatever money was in that envelope is what they had to use to go out with their friends. Once you spent all that, you didn't go out. And so he decided he wanted to try the trick of the trade. He thought, well, Mom's not going to do anything, she's just going to give it to me. Well, that didn't happen. He was so mad that he said, I just think you're unfair. And I said, well, guess what? Life ain't fair either. Do you have that problem?
I tell mine, you do the right thing because it's the right thing. not because you're gonna do the right.
But I know that, both of my children, I have to say this much, they have their own homes. They didn't go to jail, get into trouble or anything. The only thing is my daughter got in trouble once with a girlfriend that I told her not to be with. Was she sad that I did what I did? Sure. Was she depressed? No, because she knew she did wrong. I just made a T-shirt up for her that says I stole from Walmart and made her pick up pop cans along the road for 3 months to pay her fines. And she couldn't go to Walmart for a year. I mean, was I mean? Huh? The judge he asked me what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. I said she had to learn a lesson. And the only way oh, I did.
They're saying, my child wouldn't do that.
I knew she didn't do it, but her girlfriend stuck the stuff in her purse, and she should have taken responsibility and taken it out, and not let her do that. So when I went before the judge, I said, I want her to pick up, and I also gave her 250 hours of community service. My community service was to go to the nursing home and wipe behinds for 250 hours. Did it make her depressed? Sure did, because she'd come home and she'd go, Mom, this woman was just, she was nasty. I said, well, that's your punishment, honey. Keep on trucking.
She never stole again though, right?
Nope, never.
Point taken.
Did I have parents honk the horn when she's picking up garbage along the road and pop cans to pay her fines? Oh, yeah. I had parents stop and say, you go, woman. Yee-haw. Yeah, she learned. Was she depressed about it? No. Was she sad about it? Yeah. Because she learned a lesson that said, hey, you have consequences for your actions, and your actions have consequences, so good luck. Listen, I wore combat boots at my house. My ex-husband was military for 21 years, so you learn to wear combat boots because your dad, mom, teacher, mother, nurse, because if they go overseas, can't call him 4,000 miles away and say, hey, David did this and this. What's he going to do? Reach through their phone and slap? No, can't do that. Did I suffer with depression at times when he would be sent away? Yeah. But I had to get over it. I had 2 kids to take care of. Okay, I'm going to quit because you all need to be out on the job. He's got to see what his guys are doing because they're probably standing out there.
His guys were the ones on the back row.
They're probably out there smoking.
They better not be.
Hey.
They'll be happy next time they come.
Hey, listen, the boss is not there.
I bet you will.
How's he gonna know?
What do you want that to
No.
do?
I don't know.
I bet you $100 it will.
But anyways, are there any questions? I enjoyed all of you. Have a great day. Have a nice weekend because the NFL is going to be downtown and the Hard Rock and all that stuff is going to be there. It's going to be lots of fun. Have we all decided who we want to be on the team? Hey, me either.